Oh god, we're still here. Let me take a sip of my tea. Hot. Good for my throat, though. I forgot his name is Mr. Shamsphere. What happened? Oh yeah, we were looking around and we saw the bar of soap. And there was another bar, a few more bars of soap. And we are like, what the heck is going on here? Look at these extravagant, bright costumes. Somehow they look out of place in this room with its grim, shady goings-on. This one looks like a king's attire. A king? I've always dreamt of being a king. No, Ryunosuke. Oh, I think you'd be more suited to a feudal lord, a daimyo or such like. With a chonmage top knot, every Japanese man wishes he had a chonmage. I don't know if that's how you say it. Chonmage? It looks Korean to me. I'm confused. Let me see how to pronounce this. Chonmage. Oh, you'd look wonderful with one, and you already have the sword. True. Can you imagine what would happen if I walked around the streets of London with a chonmage and a sword? You would probably get killed. Just guessing. What's this? It looks like part of an envelope, I think. Yes, I think you may be right. Perhaps it was torn off when the letter was opened. Is that significant? Well, it's a little out of place, perhaps. When you look around the room, there's no sign of a letter, or the rest of the envelope, in fact, is there. Ah, she's right. And yet here we have the torn off end of an envelope. Envelope? It just strikes me as unusual. I agree. We'd better take this just in case. Interesting. There's not much on these shelves, is there? Just this wine glass and bottle. And both of them are cracked. Yes, not much use, are they? What's the matter? Oh, I was just reminded of the Reaper, that's all. I guess the shape of the cup. Prosecutor Lord Van Zieks. Yes, he's so reckless with his wine glasses. I was thinking it's a waste and that he should donate some to the needy. You can suggest it next time we meet. Which will be soon, I assume. I don't know if there's anything else. Let's look at... Can I look at these things closer? Okay, this is a receipt from the other case. And this is the map from the other case too. Soap. Soap. What is this? This part's a different color. It's an exquisite design, isn't it? Trust the British to turn a boring bar of soap into something special. I quite like it. It reminds me of the Hinomaru design of the Japanese flag. Expect this is a rather expensive soap. I think we already said that. Okay, I don't know if there's anything else special about it. I wonder what the white stuff at the end is. Whoever opened this envelope didn't bother with a letter opener or scissors, did they? Yes, whoever opened it was clearly someone with an unrefined temperament. And judging from the angle of the rip here, the person in question must have been right-handed. Miss Susato. I think perhaps someone's been reading too much of the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. You can never read too much of it, Mr. Naruhodo. Never. Yes, you can. Stop reading it. Nothing inside. I don't know if there's anything else. Double check-in. I was hoping to look at the door, but I guess I can't. Let's see, back. Move. New location. Okay, Susato says we needed a little more time investigating here. If Susato says there's something else, I think we're missing something. Can I not look at the body? Cup. Ah, one of the teacups that Mr. Shamsphere and his guest drank from last night. Don't go drinking from them, Mr. Naruhodo. There's bitter poison inside. I'm not planning on drinking any, don't worry. Anyway, the cups are both empty. Hey, Solid. That's true, so one was Mr. Shamsphere's, and the other must be the cup that Mr. Natsume was drinking from. But Soseki-san wasn't poisoned, of course. Perhaps we should take these so we can examine them in more detail later. Okay, the one with the green line is Mr. Natsume's. Okay, that was the last thing. Looks like you're having a good snoop around, eh? Who? Inspector Gregson back so soon. After I threw that little Japanese fell in the clink, I went and reported this to the investigation division. In 5 minutes' time, this place will be cordoned off by the yard. Oh, I see. Well, we'd better be leaving then. Poor Mr. Natsume must be feeling very low being back in the cell again so soon. Literally yesterday was the trial. I'm sure. What's wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? Yeah! Out, out! Brief candle lies but a walking shadow, a poor player. That struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. Now, how soundeth the next part? It is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Indeed, oh happy day. Whoa. Walking Dead! I like his little shoes with the bows. The fella isn't dead at all. What was that nonsense he was saying, though? I think, yes, it was from William Shakespeare's Macbeth. A soliloquy from Act 5, Scene 5. Shakespeare. Okay, they can say Shakespeare. So it was that the victim, Mr. William Shakespeare, came back to life. If the man had indeed been poisoned, it transpired that it hadn't killed him. He was taken by emergency carriage to a nearby hospital for treatment. Inspector Gregson evicted us from the scene of the crime, whatever that now was. I guess attempted murder, technically. Whatever do you think will happen now? Good question. What a strange situation for Mr. Natsume. Arrested for murder, but then the victim comes back to life? I think perhaps the victim was never dead in the first place. It seems very likely that Mr. Shakespeare did consume poison, as we had deduced. But was it an accident, attempted suicide, or attempted murder? Till the truth can be established, I imagine the police will keep Mr. Natsume in custody. I suppose so. Let's hope it doesn't come to anything more than a night in the cells. Oh, what's this? What's that man doing over there? He looks like he's trying to see into Soseki-san's lodgings. Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? Excuse me, could we have a word? Power Ranger, go. He just ran off. I feel sure that I've seen that man somewhere before. Where was it? I do too, but I don't remember. The Soapy is out here. With the exception of the top floor, where Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb live, all the windows are bricked up. Yes, that's because of an old window tax that was charged on the number of windows the property had. In order to pay less tax, the poor members of society filled in many of their windows. But the tax has since been abolished, hasn't it? So the windows could all be opened up again, surely. Unfortunately, it would appear that the residents of the district can't afford to pay to have the work done. Yes, it is a sad state of affairs. Especially for people like poor Mr. Natsume, who have to live all cooped up in a windowless room. I suppose that's the price you pay for living in very cheap accommodation. It all seems rather pointless when you put it like that. She's right. There always seems to be a bicycle around outside a Garrideb residence. I read that bicycles are extremely popular all over Great Britain at the moment, in fact. That one seems very warped, though, especially the front wheel. Is that to make it more of a challenge to ride, do you think? No, I'm afraid that may be a result of the rider's incompetence. For the front wheel to be so badly warped, I'm afraid the rider may have been similarly afflicted. Then, there's a good chance Mr. Natsume has been practicing on this bicycle, I think. What makes you think it's him? Oh dear, I fear you may be right. What? How do you know it's his? The Garrideb household and Mr. Natsume's lodgings are in a prominent position there in the corner. Sometimes when I look at the building, I can't help feeling that it's a bit of a slant. It does rather look as though it would collapse in even the smallest earthquake, doesn't it? And isn't it supposed to be haunted as well? I think I might have a hunch as to why Soseki-san has such a hunched back. The building? The building does look like it's about to fall over. London's blanketed in fog again today, and the sky is covered in cloud. Yeah, I'm like, how do you know it's his bike? I don't remember if they mentioned it in the first game, but... But if you look carefully in the distance, you can just make out the Crystal Tower being built. Oh, is it here? This one? Ah, the Crystal Tower, yes. The centerpiece of the great exhibition that's to open in 6 months' time. Maybe. Although, they say he has a hunchback because of the building, too? I don't know, man. Everyone's talking about the Great Exhibition of London at the moment, it seems. Well, it's to be the largest event of its kind anywhere in the world, with technology and scientists from all over. I can't wait for it myself. Do you think visiting students from the Far East like us will be granted entry? The last great exhibition that was held in London had more than 6 million visitors, it seems. And this time the British are determined to make it an even bigger success, to outdo the Paris Exposition. I see. That's an incredible number of people. And with so many people expected to attend, we should easily be able to slip in unnoticed. There's always the honest approach of buying tickets at the main entrance, Mr. Naruhodo. But I like how you think, sir. Let's see. He's still here. Why has somebody built a snowman on some sort of pedestal, do you think? That's not a pedestal, Mr. Naruhodo. That's part of the snowman's body. Really? But it already has a perfectly good body. Well, it's true that British snowmen are usually made with 2 balls of snow. Perhaps this is a foreigner. Wait, what? I thought... And now we're looking at him as if he's strange. Poor man, I know how he feels. Japanese snowmen are just one big lump, if I remember correctly. 2 lumps? I guess I have seen that. I see that in, Animal Crossing. 3 lumps? Is it 3 lumps an American thing, maybe? I wonder. If anything, it's Japanese and British 2-ball snowmen that are the strange ones, isn't it? After all, real people do have 3 sections: head, torso, and legs. Do you ever think that perhaps you think about things too much? No, she's right. Okay, I don't think there's anything else. Let's see. Move. Okay, nothing else here. Go to prison and be like, hey bro, how you doing? Oh. I think they're still questioning him then. Okay, I guess we'll talk to the Gyarados. Is his wife in jail yet? Here we are again, the eccentric landlord's eccentric top floor abode. We're here because Mr. Gyarados the one who discovered the incident this morning, don't forget. Ah, you chaps, eh? Don't know what his voice is. Yes, good morning, sir. Thank you for your cooperation in court yesterday. It was quite a trial. As much for Mr. Gyarados as anyone, really. Came straight back here after all that business at the Bailey yesterday. Didn't expect to wake up to more bally nonsense this morning. I wonder if you wouldn't mind telling us exactly what happened, Mr. Gyarados. Yes, I suppose you'd like to know all about that dead loss of an actor chap in the ground floor room. Those were exactly Inspector Gregson's words, weren't they? Does he know he's alive? Oh, he stand up. You don't need to be standing, sir. You should probably talk to him first. It must have been a real shock for you this morning. I hear that you discovered what had happened. Ah well, that hopeless actor chap rises at 5 o'clock sharp every morning without fail. But at 5:30 this morning, he still hadn't lit the gas. So I went down and knocked on his door, but no bally answer. Bally? Bally? I think I say like Bollywood. And that's when he broke into his room by kicking down the door. Well, I call him that rum-looking Japanese chap to do the grunt work, of course. Wasn't it a little premature to kick the door down? The man could have just overslept by half an hour. That's very true, Mr. Naruhodo. If 30 minutes oversleeping warranted such behavior, I have to kick your door down every morning. Well, you know, better to be safe than sorry and all that. Is it just me, or is he avoiding our gaze now all of a sudden? He literally is avoiding our gaze all of a sudden. It said that it was a sorry situation indeed that you found on the far side of the door. The victim's name is Mr. Shamspear, I believe. Is that right? Yes, William Shamspear took the ground floor room 3 months ago now. And how would you describe him? In a word, destitute. Destitute? Well, let's face it, the only redeeming feature of that room is the cheap rent. Anyone wanting to live in a place like that is either broke or has a bally screw loose. So hard to choose which category Soseki-san would fall into. He can be both, I guess. But I think he's just poor. I can't even imagine the conversion rate from yen to pound here at this time. Mr. Naruhodo, that's a little rude. He was doing research as well. Research? Into what? Shakespeare, of course. Shakespeare. Read a few plays of the old bard myself, you know. Romeo and Hamlet and all that. Gay? Yes, William Shakespeare is England's most highly regarded classical playwright and author. He's known as Sao in Japanese, you know, and many of his works have already been translated. I wonder why Sao? Shakespeare to Sao. Shakespeare. Sao. I guess they do like shortening words a lot there. It seems incredible that Shakespeare was shortened to Sao, though. Someone was too heavy-handed there. There were a lot of costumes in the victim's room, actually, weren't there? Of course, Mr. Natsume is a scholar of English literature as well. I imagine he and Mr. Shamspear would have had much in common. Shakespeare interpretation disagreement leads to shocking murder. Let's hope it's not that. Mr. Naruhodo? Really? How rude. Is his face just so easy to read? After Mr. Natsume's trial yesterday, you came straight back here, I believe, didn't you? Did you notice anything strange between then and this morning? Well, now, must have been about 6 in the evening by the time I got home. Snow was coming down rather heavily, as I remember, and it was completely dark already. That failed actor chap was out at the time. Mr. Garrett noticed there was no light from his room or something, I suppose. Couldn't summon the energy for anything much, so I just sat in front of the fire up here. It was after 8 before Shamspear got back. The chap was up until past 1 in the morning, I'll have you know. Suppose he met his end sometime after that. I was asleep by then, so I'm rather in the dark there. Well, thank you. That was very illuminating. How does he know the exact times? Is everything alright, Miss Usato? Well, I was just thinking it's a little strange, that's all. Mr. Garadev, you were up here in your room all evening, if I've understood correctly. Not a big fan of stairs, not with this blasted leg. Then, how is it that you seem to know? The precise movements of your tenant on the ground floor, I mean. That's a very good point. I can't imagine that you could hear noises from the ground floor all the way up here. Does this old man like to spy on his tenants? Is that it? I say, I know what you're thinking. It's a bally outrage. I'm ex-military, don't you know? I don't go around spying on my tenants. Why would I? And how did you know, Mr. Garadeb? It's the gas, woman. The gas tells me everything. The gas? You can guess. What on earth do you mean, sir? How can the gas tell you anything, let alone everything? Well, as you're probably aware, the gas is supplied to the building by pipes. Yes, I'd more or less worked that out. Every room in a building is connected by a single pipe to the gas main outside. And the gas company supplies gas to properties via the main. Yes, I understand that too. Let me see if I can explain. Let's say I was to light the gas lamps up here. What do you suppose would happen? Well, obviously the room would get brighter. Exactly, but at the same time, the lights in all the other rooms of the house would dim for a moment. What? They dim? Why? Perhaps it's because when you light a gas lamp, it briefly uses more gas than usual. And that reduces the amount of gas in the pipe for the other lamps that are connected to it. That might explain why the other lamps dim momentarily, mightn't it? Yes, of course, because everything's connected to a single supply pipe. Good job! That's supposed to happen, though. It sounds rather undesirable. Jolly good point. Fact is, the gas company's pipes in these parts are pretty hopeless, long worn out, and barely got any gas in them to start with. Opposite's also true, of course. Extinguish the lamps up here and they glow brighter in the rest of the house. Ah, right, I see. So by watching the flickering of the lamps in one room, you can determine what's happening elsewhere. You got it? Oh, of course, because when people come back home in the evening and before they go to sleep at night, what they're guaranteed to do is either light or put out their lamps and fires. Clever. In point of fact, the room on the ground floor and the one above it use slightly different amounts of gas. By watching the lights in here closely, I can work out almost exactly what's going on in the whole house. Gosh, that's fascinating, Mr. Garrideb. Absolutely fascinating. Oh well, doesn't do it really. And I can't really see that it's going to help us with the case either. What I'd like to know is why Mr. Garrideb is so interested in what his tenants are up to in the first place. I feel like there's more to it than idle curiosity. Well, we've done as much investigating here as we can, I think. Perhaps we ought to go to the prison and speak with Mr. Natsume again. A good idea. I would be curious, too, if I were him. Oh, I didn't even look at the cups. Okay, there's... Wait, this one's empty. The teacup from which Mr. Natsume is drinking. Yes, unlike the other one, the inside of the cup is completely clean. I suppose he must have drunk the contents before the tea had a chance to leave a mark. I always gulp it down too. Sorry, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, if you just sip it little by little, it goes cold. Clearly, I shall have to instruct you in the proper way to take tea. This must be the cup that Mr. Shamsphere was drinking from then. It's stained on the inside. Tea does that, I'm afraid, even green tea. Oh really? I've never noticed before. You've never noticed? Well, I never leave it in the cup long enough to leave a mark. I like to gulp it down. Drink tea while it's hot. That's the Japanese way, isn't it? Oh dear, so many people seem to have the wrong idea about our culture, and most of them are Japanese. Idiot. They both have lip stains. It could mean anything, though. They're very similar, too. I think anything is left here. Move to the prison. There he is. Look, Mr. Naruhodo. Mr. Natsume, have the police finished questioning you now? Look who's soon, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Oh, yes? What is he? Tell me, is he a ghost? Is he here to haunt me? Let me guess, you're talking about Mr. Sholmes. He actually calls himself a great detective, Mr. Natsume, not a ghost. But his diabolic deductions, they're not of his world. They've left me. Ah, cursed. I'm cursed, I tell you. Well, that sort of hurts. Credit where credit is due, Mr. Naruhodo. You were heavily involved in the deduction, too. Yes, moving on. We have some wonderful news. Oh? The victim that we all thought was dead has come back to life again. Now, in the absolutely worst case, you could only be tried for attempted murder. Haha! That's great, isn't it, Mr. Natsume? It's terrible! Oh. I'm stuck in this cell, suffering for some silly wrong end of the stick. You did it, didn't you? Confess, you're a killer. Why the mustache? Constant questions. I'm sorry to hear that. Ah, that selfish shyster. Make up your mind. Are you dead or alive? If you were going to come back to life, why bother dying? Wickedly wishy-washy William. Well, it seems likely that Mr. Shamsphere was never actually dead in the first place. Ah yes, that might make sense. And I'm pleased that he's alive, of course. Our lively debate last night was much fun. I'd be sad to think it was our last. Oh. Oops. Mr. Natsume, does this mean that you did see the victim last night? You met with Mr. Shamsphere, didn't you? I'm not saying another word. I demand of a lawyer present. Who do you think I am? Please, Mr. Natsume, we need to hear your side of the story. Why am I cursed like this? I don't know, man, but you better start talking. Can you tell us exactly what happened last night then, Mr. Natsume? There's nothing to tell, but Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, I'm eternally grateful to you for helping me with that accursed case yesterday. The case that saw poor Miss Green hospitalized after she ended up with a knife in her back. It's hard to believe that was only yesterday. After the trial was over, I trudged my weary way back to my lowly lodgings. And that evening at past 9 it must have been, I visited Mr. Shamsphere. So you did go to the victim's room then? As we feared. I didn't do anything wrong. I'd never been to his room before. It was the first time. Then, what made you decide to go? I bumped into him when I arrived back at the house. We got chatting and it developed into a discussion. But he had to go out, so I bade him farewell. That ties in with what Mr. Garadeb said, that the victim went out and came back after 8. We met again later that evening at around 9 or just after, when I took him some nice tea I'd brewed as a gift. So it was you who brought the tea that had clearly been drunk at the scene then. And I suppose you were discussing the works of Shakespeare, weren't you? Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. Romeo and Juliet! Who was the stronger? It was a delightful debate. I'm sure. Such a stimulating subject, Shakespeare. And the debate became very heated, so you slipped poison into Mr. Shamsphere's tea. No, never, not at all. Team Juliet won, that was me, and when I left his room, the flamboyant fellow was a fighting fit, I swear it, categorically. He's right though, Juliet is stronger. Mr. Natsume, you often say the same thing about yourself, I've noticed. That you have a cursed existence. I'm sure I've mentioned this to you before, but I've been here in Great Britain for a year now, and in that time I've learned that it's no place for me. It can be very trying to live in a foreign land and adapt to the ways of another culture. There are foreigners everywhere I look, and they all stare at me, they all laugh. That's the impression I get whenever I go out. It makes me scared to leave my room. Which is why I've become a recluse, but even in my room I find no respite from my fears. I've moved more times than I can remember, and then 1 week ago I moved into Briar Road. But why? I mean, why did you choose that place? It doesn't seem very comfortable. Because the rent is cheap. I have so little money, it spoke to me. The rent? Obviously, there's a reason why it's cheap. Because the room is cursed. Cursed? Cursed how? The previous occupant, the man who lived there before I took the room, died there. Oh no! He was only a young man, but one morning he was found dead and no one could explain why. Surely no one would want to live in a room with a history like that. But the rent is cheap! I didn't. When the letting agent recommended the place, I wavered. But I want books, and books cost money. A horrible history is a small price to pay. I realized it would mean I could buy more books. I signed the lease like lightning. Brave? Or blinkered? But after I moved in, I soon came to realize what I'd done. I realized how horrible that room's history really was. Gosh, was it really so awful? Tell me. How did the room's horrible history affect you, Mr. Natsume? What happened? At first, it was just a feeling. The feeling of beady eyes boring into my back, watching me. Do you think that might just have been your mind playing tricks on you? No, my mind doesn't know any tricks. It was someone else. It's been one long nightmare ever since I was given the keys to the place. A nightmare? You've been having bad dreams, you mean? All the souls who died in that room lean over me in my sleep and try to strangle me. That really is horrible. And now I come to think of it, it happened again last night too. The very same night that Mr. Shamsphere was writhing in agony from the poison in his body. I was on the verge of being suffocated silently by those miserable spirits in my room. You simply must move out of that room as soon as possible. Yes, you're right, I know it, and that's why. I'm already searching for the next room with a history to call home. I think perhaps you should try to avoid accommodation with any kind of history at all. Otherwise, I'm scared that you yourself may become history. Why would you say this? Susato-san knows how to make the man listen. Yeah, I think it's a gas leak. What he's saying is also sleep paralysis, but that could also be induced by gas. Of course. Mr. Lord the Manor is worried about the curse on my room as well. You mean Mr. Garrideb? Yes, he knows that if people keep dying there, he'll never be able to rent it out again. Well, that's true. I, for one, wouldn't go near the place. Ah, perhaps that may explain why the landlord pays so much attention to the gas lamps and his tenants' movements. You mean, because he's worried about their well-being? He does seem to have an unusually keen interest in the amount of gas in the pipes. How they're talking so much of the gas. There must be a reason why he keeps such close tabs on the occupants of his let rooms. What do you mean, he pays so much attention to the gas lamps? Oh dear, no, it's nothing to do with you, Mr. Natsume. Please, forget I said anything. Oh, now you're talking about me behind my back as well. What's important is that Mr. Shamsphere isn't in fact dead at all. Once he's come around and he's able to tell us what happened, we'll be able to get you released. Yes, please. Oh, I do hope you're right. Ahem, excuse me. Inspector Gregson, I couldn't help overhearing what you just said, and on that note, I have some good news and some bad news. Oh. What do you want first? Always, every time, the bad news comes first. When hope is all you have, hold on to it. That's my guiding principle. Right, well, in that case, the good news it is. Huh? Sorry, but it's just a lot easier to explain everything that way. Then why did you ask me my preference? As you might have heard, the victim, Mr. Shamsphere, was just unconscious. He's come round now. Yes, we saw it happen in all its terrifying glory. He's still being treated by the doctors, but we've managed to get a written statement from him already. Oh, isn't that wonderful, Mr. Natsume? Oh, thank goodness, it's all over then. I can leave this somber cell. Sorry, no, that's not on the cards. What? Why ever not, Inspector? Mr. Shamsphere has implicated someone as being responsible for what happened last night. Implicated someone? Oh dear. You don't mean... I'm sorry to say I do, yes. He's pointed a finger at you, Mr. Natsume. By sweet poison did he seeketh to end my life. That wicked cave. Soseki Natsume. No. So I'm afraid he'll be appearing in court as planned. He'll be wanting to make the necessary preparations. No! And so, once again, Soseki-san found himself having to take the dock in the Old Bailey. Whether his room was haunted or whether he was just terribly unlucky, I knew I had no choice. The following day, I would represent him in court and do my utmost to break the curse that blighted him. Poor man. Literally the day after, huh? The Old Bailey. This place always makes me feel strange. I seem to get chills down my spine and break out in a nervous sweat at the same time. Well, I didn't think I'd be back here so soon. That's my line. Good morning! Good morning, Mr. Natsume. It was only 2 days ago that I was declared not guilty here. Yes, we somehow managed to prove he didn't stab Miss Green to pack. But now this? Another morning, another murder, and here I am again, this hellhole. Can't keep coming to court. I'm beginning to think he's right. It really does seem as though he's cursed. Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid I have bad news. Oh! Mr. Natsume, good morning. Yes, morning. So, here we are again. Yes, again. Judicial Assistant Miss Mikutoba Esquires, what's the bad news? Dear, you heard, did you? You're coming shouting at the top of your voice. People can't help hearing what you say. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry? Sorry? You've done nothing wrong, Miss Susato. Now, what is it? Well, it seems that the prosecution in today's trial will be led by Lord Barak Van Zieks. Van Zieks? Oh no, no, no! The so-called Reaper of the Valley, the most legendary prosecutor in the land. In the trial 2 days ago, he pursued Soseki-san and I relentlessly. Of course, by the skin of our teeth. We managed to pull through, but still. Perhaps Mr. Natsume's acquittal in the last trial wasn't the end of the matter, after all. Yes, I know what you're thinking. The legend of the Reaper that says, nothing can save a person in the dock when Lord Van Zieks is the prosecutor. Oh no, don't say this all in front of him. But even if that person is found not guilty, the accused will meet a mysterious end one way or another. And we've experienced it firsthand. Yeah, but he's an asshole, though. A man we successfully defended met the most terrifying end after his acquittal right here in the Old Bailey. I guess they don't know that yet. Do I have to put up with those ice-cold eyes boring into my soul again? Cursed by evil spirits and now by the Reaper. Pair of petrifying perils, potentially. Well, if it's potentially... At least you appear to have hope, Mr. Natsume. Welcome soon, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Ah, yes. I'm innocent! You have to believe me. You more than anyone now. Don't worry. I'll be your steadfast ally every step of the way in this battle. I promise. And this promises to be a hard battle, I fear. Well, the trial is scheduled to begin shortly. We should move into the courtroom. Let's go. Oh yes, I forgot to say. I'm afraid he won't be able to make it. Mr. Sholmes, I mean. That's probably for the best. Oh! If he were here, I might be tempted to rely on his help. That could be seen as a weakness. If Lord Van Zieks were to notice, he'd prey on it mercilessly. True. At least that's my gut feeling. Mr. Naruhodo. Right. Yes, you're so right. Oh, well said, welcome student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Well said. I swear on this sword at my side and on the spirit of Kazuma that it harbors. I'll show him what a Japanese lawyer can do. I'll set you free. With honor. Oh yes. With no Sholmes in sight. We got the same people on the fucking jury again. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. There he is! The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord. Readiness for the trial, my learned Nipponese friend, is not what a defense needs. What you need is readiness for your inevitable defeat. It's not just in my imagination, it's really there. Lord Van Zieks has such an animosity towards us Japanese for some reason. It was some time ago now that he first became known as the Reaper of the Bailey, I believe. These past few years he hasn't appeared in court at all. Yet now he's back in the courtroom, though for some reason. Only when I'm defending. This Reaper with his curious disdain for us Japanese is a prosecutor shrouded in mystery. Still, this isn't the time to be pondering that. I have to concentrate on Soseki-san's trial. Furthermore, I now call upon the 6 ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You have been chosen at random to represent the will of the people in this trial. Are you ready to fulfill your duty? Ugh! Absolutely, I had a feeling this larrikin wasn't innocent before. I must say that I feel especially ruthless on days when my hat refuses to sit right. Oh, well, I rather like how you're wearing your hat. I think the ruthless look is very fetching, actually. This is a new lady. I need to be somewhere at 10 o'clock. I have a very important meeting. Let's make this quick. I couldn't agree more, and you take home 5 bob tonight or the missus will go through the roof. Oh, may the Lord show us all the light here and lead his flock to a righteous verdict. The British jury system is so very different to our own, isn't it? That's literally all the same people except for one. It's quite extraordinary to think that the power of judgment is in the hands of 6 members of the public. And that the judge can only pass sentence when all jurors are in agreement about the defendant's guilt. 6 citizens of London chosen at random, or at least that's the idea. The prosecution would draw attention to the fact that the accused was on trial here but 2 days ago. Accordingly, where possible, the same jurors have been asked to return for duty today. Why? Why? Very well, let's commence the trial. Lord Van Zieks, your opening statement, please. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is not the intent of the prosecution to cast doubt over your past decision. However, the innocent verdict afforded to this eccentric Nipponese before has had dire consequences. Did the accused repent for his wrongdoing in that affair? Far from it. Instead, he used his freedom to perpetrate a most blood-curdling crime. Namely, that of the attempted murder of his neighboring lodger, an innocent Englishman. Yeah. To explain the circumstances of the crime, the prosecution calls its first witnesses to the stand. Multiple? The cape is off. The detective responsible for investigating the scene and the accused himself. Oh. Interesting. Witnesses, your names and occupations, please. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division. Soseki Natsume from the Empire of Japan. My government ordered me to come here as a student to study your language and culture. Mr. Natsume? Yes, my lord, sir. I'm quite sure I'm not mistaken that you swore an oath never to set foot in my courtroom again. I remember it as if it were yesterday. The day before, in fact, my lord, but close enough. Believe me, this is the last place I want to be. Inspector, let's hear from you first. Explain the case for the court. Right you are, sir. The incident occurred at the Gerardeb household where the defendant has lodgings. In the ground floor room of the victim, Mr. William Shamspeare. The defendant has already admitted to visiting the victim on the night in question. Mr. Shamspeare collapsed in his room as a result of poisoning by strychnine. He was found the following morning when the landlord, suspecting something was wrong, broke down the door. This means, I presume, that the door to the victim's room was locked at the time of the incident. Correct, my lord. It was locked from the inside, making entry to or exit from the room impossible. Although the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, lives to tell tale. He very nearly didn't. The man was halfway to heaven when we first found him. I was the first officer in the scene, my lord. And I have a photographic print here that I took at the time to show how it looked. Yes, a chilling scene indeed. The man looks very much deceased. What is this? Over here. This wet spot over here. I didn't see that when we were investigating. Trying to see if there's anything else different. That's right. Everyone present believed that's exactly what he was. No one checked his vitals, I guess. Very well, I shall accept this photographic print as evidence for the court. Don't tell me he fucking poisoned himself because they were fighting about Romeo and Juliet. Juliet essentially poisoned herself. I guess let's look. Now then, Mr. Natsume. Yes. So, defendant, do you have anything to say at this juncture? They're haunted. Haunted by evil spirits. Good gracious, what's haunted? My lodgings! There's been a whole series of strange happenings in my lodgings. The tenant before me died in mysterious circumstances. A woman was stabbed by no one on the street outside. My neighbor was poisoned. And me! What about me? I've nearly been killed countless times. Killed, Mr. Natsume? How? Even on that fateful night it happened, when I returned from Mr. Shamsphere's room. I lit my gas stove and climbed into bed, but before long, the stove went out, and somebody tried to kill me! You must always extinguish all fires before retiring for the night, Mr. Natsume. But it's so cold! My runny nose would freeze! The point is, I didn't poison my neighbor. Oh, why am I being accused of this? Why is my existence so cursed? Thank you, witnesses. I believe I have a reasonably clear picture of events. If I could raise one more point, my lord. One more conclusive point. Conclusive? Go on. Fortunately, the victim, Mr. Shamsphere, has regained consciousness after his ordeal, and he has named the true culprit. The poison consumed by the victim was administered in a cup of tea that he drank on the night in question. Tea, my lord, that was brought to the victim's room by the accused. The accused? Good grief! Ordar, ordar! Yes, that's the crux of this whole case. If Soseki-san is innocent, then why is the victim accuse him? Well, Mr. Natsume, what have you to say on this accusation? That evening, yes, I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shamsphere's room as a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I bought bottled water especially to make it. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again. Never. The public pump was frozen, you say? That's not information we've heard before. That will do, thank you. Now, according to our laws, the defense must have the opportunity to cross-examine witnesses at least once. Therefore, I call upon these witnesses now for a formal testimony. I presume the prosecution has no objection. None whatsoever, my lord. Good. Then you will give your account of events on the night in question to the court now. Yeah. Yes, my lord! Poor thing. It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbor, and I took some tea with me as a gift. We had a heated literary debate over a nice hot drink, after which I went back to my room at around 11. Ugh, my tea was completely harmless! He couldn't have locked the door behind me otherwise, could he? Strychnine takes some time to have an effect on the body. People don't keel over immediately after taking it. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands. But what about the soap on the table? That's so weird. Yes, I see. It all seems relatively straightforward. Excuse me, but that testimony does raise one rather crucial point, I think. Mr. Natsume claims his tea to have been harmless, presumably though. The teacups have been examined for traces of the poison, haven't they? Why didn't I think of that? Well, as it happens, no. We haven't been able to. Did I hear you correctly, Inspector? Scotland Yard has failed to examine the suspect substance. How could you have overlooked something so important? Isn't that the first thing you should have done? My learned Nipponese friend is falsely incensed. The inspector said Scotland Yard was unable to examine the tea, not that it was overlooked. Unable? Why? It's simple enough, there was none left, not a drop. Someone must have been very thirsty indeed. With current scientific techniques, it's not possible to test for poison under such circumstances. We only need a drop, but that one drop does actually have to exist, funnily enough. The lack of examination notwithstanding, it appears nothing other than the tea passed the victim's lips on the night in question. I see. Thank you. The matter is clear. Cast your eyes over the jury, my learned friend. What? You can see it in their faces, I'm sure. The recognition of the accused's guilt. Your client's fate is all but sealed. In mere moments from now, you will lose, and your compatriot will be damned for all eternity. He's right. I can feel all sick of the jurors looking daggers at me. Smack. But I can't let them beat me down. I won't. Counsel for the defense, proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Alright, time to press on everything.
Hold it!
Were you and your neighbor good friends then? No, we weren't friends. Not at all, not at all. Never, ever. A simple no would have sufficed. Then, why did you decide to pay him a visit? Mr. Shamsphere fancies himself as having a great literary knowledge. As a fellow scholar of English literature, we find much to talk about together. Come now, no Nipponese could understand the finer points of English literature. Not the night in question. We're just going forward. Anyways! That was a topic of conversation as well, I presume. It was the day of my last trial when I was acquitted. I just arrived back at my lodgings. When I ran into Mr. Shamsphere outside in the street. That was at around 6 o'clock. We exchanged one or two pleasantries, but it soon turned into a heated discussion. He was on his way out at the time, though. I promised to visit his room that evening at 9 to continue our debate. But did I have ill intentions? No, not one, not two, not any. Not at all. Never, ever. A simple no would have sufficed, I feel. Then tell the court what did happen when you visited the victim's room.
Hold it!
Literary debate about Shakespeare's works, I think you said, didn't you? Shakespeare? Ah, a very worthy topic of conversation, I must say. Oh yes, my lord. Romeo and Juliet! Who was stronger? It was a profoundly pleasurable parley. Romeo and Juliet. Who was stronger? I know I'm going to regret asking this, but how did the debate go? Well, we both agreed that we would reach a conclusion more quickly with a reenactment. Oh! He took the poison! So we battled it out, in a Greco-Roman style, naturally. Y'all were naked? What? Mr. Shamsphere had all sorts of costumes in his room for just such a contest. So when you say in a reenactment, you mean you were actually in costume? He as Romeo, I as Juliet. And after a vigorous, wild tussle, I as Juliet came out on top. A victory I'll cherish forever. Did they actually fight? In Romeo and Juliet costumes? I dare not imagine the terrible scene of carnage. The fact remains that it was you who prepared the tea and took to the victim, correct? I boiled the water in my room and made a pot to take with me. Heard that he was too poor to have tea himself, you see. It's true, there was no sign of any tea leaves in the man's room. I wanted to do something nice, to be friendly. But why is everyone looking at me with such suspicion? My tea was harmless, of course it was. And do you have any basis for that statement, witness? I drank it. I'm fine.
Hold it!
Yes, there is not a drop of tea left in the victim's room anywhere, was there? That's correct. Anyone would think the fellow had never had a pot of tea before. He must have licked it dry. Which is a pity, because one drop is all we would have needed to analyze it for poison. And you say that you returned home to your room at 11 o'clock, Mr. Natsume. Yes, definitely. By heaven and earth, I swear it. The landlord was able to verify that, as it happens. He confirmed that the defendant went back to his room at 11 that night. And how's the landlord able to attest to this? He Said it was the lamps, I believe. The lamps, Inspector. When tenants return to their rooms and start using gas, the lamps in other parts of the house flicker. Yes, Mr. Gyarados seems to pay a lot of attention to the comings and goings of his tenants. There's only one key to Mr. Shamsphere's room, I know that for certain. So he must have locked the door himself, from inside his room. The victim has confirmed that to be the case, yes. So I'm right, my tea was harmless, completely harmless. If you take poison, you die. Everyone knows that. That's why one of the teacups was completely clean. It's not that simple, I'm afraid. What do you mean? Let me look at the picture. I like how whoever did it just did it right here. Not anywhere else.
Hold it!
How long does it take for symptoms to appear then? According to the coroner I was speaking to in the yard, about 30 minutes after the poison's consumed. The victim suffers violent convulsions, cramping and stiffness, and eventually dies from asphyxiation. There's a 30-minute interval between when the poison is ingested and the onset of symptoms. There seem to be a lot of different types of poison in the world, that's for sure. Oh dear, death by poisoning again. It's always so awful. 30 minutes is a long time. Certainly long enough for the victim to have locked the door behind the accused after he left. Can't deny that. It further degrades Soseki-san's alibi. I have the medical report from the doctor who examined the victim here, my lord. It spells it out, really. The accused is the only person who could have done it. Very well. The court will add this report to the court record as evidence. I want to look at it. Oh yes, I see it here. Delayed onset of symptoms. Great. Great. I guess so. They had their tea, acted out Romeo and Juliet, and then had to leave. All in 30 minutes. It doesn't make sense to me. Let's read this though. William Shamsphere, 31. Cause of coma, ingestion of a small quantity of strychnine. Toxic effects present 30 minutes after ingestion. High likelihood of the substance having been mixed with the tea the victim was drinking, but no sample could be obtained for testing. Investigative conclusions. The poisoning incident occurred around 1:30 a.m. on the 21st of February. Assessed from the victim's pocket watch, it appears to have been broken when the man collapsed after delayed onset of symptoms. Okay, well, this clears him. He left at 11. No container for the poison was found at the scene. Let's just press this
Hold
one.
it!
The argument still stands, you say. This is what Mr. Natsume has been saying, isn't it? The pair of them drank tea together that night, so if there was poison in it, the victim wouldn't have been able to lock the door after the accused left later on. Exactly! Ugh, me and my tea are innocent! Sweet and innocent, I tell you. I'm afraid, sir, that doesn't follow. You see, strychnine is a slow-acting poison. In other words, it takes time for symptoms to appear. So you could have left the room up to 30 minutes after the victim drank the tea. As long as you did that, Mr. Shamsphere could have locked the door after you'd gone. But no! We drank the tea straight away! The battle over whether Romeo or Juliet was stronger, that came after the tea. Do you have any evidence to support that statement? my great homeland, the Empire of Japan, we have a saying. Drink tea while it's hot. Oh my god, he chugs his tea too, like... Naruhodo. Sure, a proverb will satisfy the prosecution. I'm afraid there's no conclusive proof to support the defendant's assertion. On the contrary, there's sufficient grounds to infer his guilt in the matter. No. That's the extent of their testimony, is it? If I could voice a personal opinion, Mr. Naruhodo. Of course, go ahead. Mr. Natsume is arguing for his innocence so adamantly and so persistently. Yet Inspector Gregson just brushes what he says aside. It's really quite infuriating. I agree. So we need to find an inconsistency in what the inspector is saying, I think. I'm afraid so. As things stand, the jurors are sure to find Mr. Natsume guilty. As I see it, what we need to focus on is the poison and the tea. Let's listen carefully to his testimony again. Okay, I know where to go. Yes. I know where to go. I'm not sure where to... I guess here. I would press here. Present the... I go for it.
Objection!
The argument still stands, you say? I think not, Inspector. Come again? I think you'll find that you've overlooked a very significant chronological inconsistency here. A chrono what? What are you on about? According to this report, the victim must have consumed the poison at around 1:30 in the morning. And yet, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, left the victim's room at 11. Did you not read it, sir? Yes, that's right. There's more than 2 hours of missing time there. In other words, if there was poison in the tea that Mr. Natsume brought to the victim's room, how could the victim have fallen ill to it 2.5 full hours after the defendant left? Why are they both? The defense's argument is entirely reasonable. How do you respond, Lord Van Zieks? Or... Yeah. Throw it? Is he gonna throw it? Pray forgive the discourtesy if my mind has wandered. I was considering what cuisine would best complement the contents of my hallowed chalice this luncheon. How could it have happened, you ask? I do hate to shatter illusions, but my Nipponese friend appears to be chasing a phantom idea. A phantom? Is it so hard to imagine that the victim drank his tea after the accused had left? For example, at the time stated in the medical report, yes, at around 1:30.
Objection!
Mr. Natsume brought the tea with him to drink together with his neighbor. And in Japan, there's a well-known saying, drink tea while it's hot.
Objection!
And in my country, there's an even more apt saying, there is nothing more refreshing than cold tea. What? Hold on. Okay, cold tea is refreshing. But it's also cold outside. It's snowing. The point is, if there was such a long gap, there may be other ways to explain how the victim came to be poisoned, other possibilities. What sort of possibilities, counsel? Well, for example, the man could have had another visitor. Another visitor. That's a very bold assertion, my learned friend, from someone who has nothing to substantiate it. Or the victim could have taken the poison of his own volition. You said justice may have been a suicide, counsel.
Objection!
Mr. Shamsphere has categorically denied suicide. The idea can and must be discounted.
Objection!
But he could be lying. He's like, shit, you're right. Is something wrong, Lord Van Zieks? I was listening to the sound of the carriage pulling up outside the courtroom. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Carriage? What carriage? It would seem that the key player in this case has just arrived. Out! Out! Brief candle lies but a walking shadow. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Who, sir, are you? William Shamsphere, my lord. Alas, 'twas I, undone by these bitter events. I am the victim. What's he doing here? The prosecution seeks to call this gentleman to the stand. With his testimony, my learned friend's futile resistance will be utterly crushed. You're calling him as a witness. Very well, counsel. I grant your request with interest. I'm curious to discover what the court shall hear from the victim himself. Happy am I, Shamsphere, to regale thee with my tale of woe, my lord. What? I still have my own tale to tell, my own tale of worse woe. I can regale the court with a tale of my perfect innocence in perfect English. He just has an unfortunate mustache. That will do, Mr. Natsume. Let the court now hear from the victim. Who is this man? Alright, so that's Mr. Shamsphere. Who's the other man beside him? Yes, I feel sure that we've caught a glimpse of that man before. State your names and occupations for the court, please, witnesses. A writer of words so sweet they do scent the breeze, an inventor of ideas so profound they compose the earth. The unrivaled poet, the unmatched scribe, William Shakespeare. Were the great bard to be recalled to life anew, lo, what a magnificent man! Good fellows, I am he who ponders such a miracle, William Shamsphere. Oh, the name's Meterman. Adron B. Meterman. Is he looking at the gas? Is he the gas man? I work for the Altamont Gas Company, East End Branch Office. Oh, I was right. I remember now. It was yesterday on Briar Road. Oh yes, she's right. It's him. What are you doing there? Hey. I'm looking at soap over here. Power Rangers go. He does the same poses that Natsume does too. Yes, we spotted him outside Mr. Garadev's house that morning. And he's a gas company employee? What does he have to do with the case? So, Mr. William Shamsphere, you are the victim in this miserable affair, correct? Oh heaven, oh hell, do you command me to remember? That sweet poison that did cross me and cross mine innocent lips. I subpoenaed him for the trial, with his doctor's permission, naturally. Hearing the testimony of the aggrieved will remove any room for doubt from the jurors' minds, I'm sure. Behold, you have only to rearrange the letters of my name to see that me's a seraph, an angel indeed. Those are all the letters in his name. Thus be I of noble mind, sweet of nature, and verily honest of heart, as all heavenly angels be. Because there isn't a less contrived meaning in your name. No, not at all. The jurors seem to be very moved by this man, I'm afraid. Are they really? Actually taking this seraph anagram idea seriously? Thank you, witnesses, for your illuminating introductions. But my lord, what's the man next to Mr. Shamsford doing here? The gas man, I mean. What, me? Well now. Allow me to enlighten my learned friend. You recall, I presume, your earlier impertinence. When you suggested that the victim had another visitor to his room on the night in question. And moreover, that the victim is a compulsive liar. What? No, I didn't quite say that. This young chin-stroker is here to controvert your wild claims conclusively. Is that not so, Mr. Meterman? Hang on, no. I'm just here... I hereby call for your formal testimonies. You will tell the court as lucidly as possible what happened on the night in question. One may smile and be a villain. Yes, it doth pain me, but let the truth be spoken, the truth of that wintry night of my discontent. Why is he here? No one explained anything. The snow lay about. My neighbor did cometh in the evening, bearing a gift of tea. But marry, bitter was his drink, and when he left, I did fall prostrate on my table. 'Twas the tea alone did pass my lips at late hour, naught else. I was outside his bloke's window in the freezing cold all night, keeping an eye on his room. No one else visited his room but that short little round-backed eastern fella. Why were you there? Explain? Wait, what did you say? You were keeping an eye on Mr. Shamsford's room at night? That's right. Of course, the bloke's window is all but blocked up, isn't it? But there's a little gap in the bricks where you can see into the room. So I spent the night trying to keep my teeth from chattering as I peered in through that. The question is, sir, why? Well now, that's because he's on my list. What a piece of work is a man! Wherefore wouldst thou not stare in wonderment? What are you talking about? This buzzing busybody hath not part in this play. I pray thee, pay him no heed. Make no more ado about his tedious words. Alright, he's important then. What'd you say about me? Calm yourself. This court is concerned with what happened on the night in question. Nothing more. Indeed, that is so. And, as the testimony we have just heard clearly reveals, there was no one other than the accused present at the time who could have carried out this crime. Don't be whispering. Well, I believe this may be the final testimony of the trial. Now, counsel, the defense may proceed with the cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Ay, vey. Hey, Dota.
Hold it!
To be clear, by neighbor, you are referring to the defendant, Mr. Natsume. Oh, indeed, sire. Perchance thou wouldst I call him the man from upstairs. And at what time did the mustachioed Nipponese visit you in your room? Our meeting was promised for the hour of 9, and lo did he come to tender a gift of fragrant tea. Details which are in accordance with the defendant's own testimony, yes. And we were embroiled in such a literary debate as history hath not seen before. By which I presume he means their discussion about who was the stronger, Romeo or Juliet. I, Shamspeare, did play the part of young Romeo, whilst my neighbour played the fair Juliet. Each of us dressed as would our characters be, to bring weight upon our merry experiment. I dare not imagine the scene. Frailty! Thy name is woman. Canst thou imagine how dismayed I was? Yes, I'd heard of the eastern art of jujitsu, but ne'er did I dream 'twould be a skill practiced by the comely maiden. Wait, they actually did fight each other in costume. Juliet beat Romeo up. This is not helping your case. I believe the court has heard enough about your earth-shattering literary debate. Perhaps you could reiterate your statement about the tea that the accused brought to your room. My liege, I am thy servant. Gladly I would do thy bidding.
Hold it!
Let me stop you there. Mr. Natsume left your room at 11 o'clock, but it wasn't until after 2 that the poison made you collapse. That amounts to more than 3 hours of missing time. What is he doing? If the defendant had really put the poison into your tea, that 3-hour window of time is something you're going to have to explain. Gladly, 'tis an easy task. What? I did drink of the tea, not while my guest did tarry, but after he took leave of me. Faith, 'twas stone cold, but at 1 hour post midnight, verily were my lips parched.
Objection!
That doesn't sound normal. Nay, 'tis quite ordinary, sire, after all. Thou wouldst recall our fiery debate. Amid such argument there be no time for fiery tea. Romeo and Juliet again, and who was stronger? Mr. Shamspeare, in summary, allow me to confirm. Did you not come here with the intention of naming your attacker? But of course, my liege. 'Twas the stooped lover of words that attempt to shuffle me off this mortal coil. Ugh, we all know what that means. You just say his name. Nothing else.
Hold it!
So you didn't have any kind of evening meal? Dinner, supper? Ha! Fie on luxury, fie on gluttony! To eat thrice daily is but a waste of time. Sorry? I would that my belly were full, no more often the sun doth rise. Well, most heroic eating habits, I must say. Night and day do I fill my hours with learned study of the great bard and playwright. Hence is it that there doth not in my chamber be than the costumes of mine art. That would appear to be the case, as even a rodent was found starved to death in your room. Now I think of it, it's not just food that was conspicuously missing from that room, is it? I don't recall seeing a single play or script anywhere. For I have devoured them all. You've eaten them? Every word be within my skull. Didst thou imagine otherwise? Right, that wasn't misleading at all. Now, could you turn around, do you think? Which brings us to the conclusion that the only way the poison could have passed the victim's lips is in the tea. Huh.
Hold it!
But the windows of that house have all been filled in. A historical artifact of the now defunct window tax. Yeah, you're right there, all bricked up horribly. But as it happens, there's a little part of the brickwork at the bottom corner that's been opened up. I was looking in through that gap. Yes, there were a few bricks loose, weren't there? For some strange reason, a couple of bars of soap lined up on the ledge outside as well. I don't like going around poking my chin in other people's business, especially on freezing cold nights. Them's my orders, so that's what I'll keep doing. As long as there's breath in my body. What's with all the theatricals today? Out of interest, Mr. Meterman, after the accused had left and returned to his own lodgings, did you see the victim leave the room at all? No, he never left. He was in that room the whole time as far as I'm concerned. We can therefore discount the possibility of suicide. How can you be sure of that? The police carried out a thorough investigation of the scene and found no receptacle for the poison. And since we know the victim didn't leave his room, and hence didn't dispose of the poison container himself, it's clear that this was no attempted suicide. Only the culprit could have removed the receptacle. Ah yes, lucidly explained, counsel, thank you. It really was. You can't argue with the logic. But did they know about the soap? Did they know about the soap?
Hold it!
You say a short little round-backed Eastern fellow, so you can't be sure it was a defendant then.
Objection!
How many other short little round-backed Nipponese with a mustache do you think there are in London? Well, of course, it's only a narrow gap and it was quite dark, so I didn't notice the mustache. But he showed up at around 9, so I'm pretty sure of myself. And when the person you saw arrived, did he and Mr. Shamsfield drink tea together? Nah, sorry, I couldn't say. Why not? Because I couldn't see into the room all that well, could I? What I did see was the silhouette of that little round-backed fellow wearing a pretty dress. Then the pair of them started some kind of wrestling match. I tell you, I didn't know what to make of it. Huh. I suppose that was the Romeo and Juliet championship battle getting underway. I think he was eating the soap, but probably because he didn't have food. Mr. Meterman, allow me to confirm one final time. Apart from the accused, can you state with certainty that no one else visited the victim on the night in question? No question. Gasman's honor. Oh. God damn it, my lord! Goodness me, yes, Mr. Foreman. I've kept my mouth shut and listened up to now, but this has gone on long enough. Are you all with me? Yes. Are we to understand that you ladies and gentlemen of the jury are in agreement with one another? That you've reached a unanimous decision? Too right we have. Are y'all with me? Yes. Wait, no, the defense is in the middle of a cross-examination. To be honest, I was holding out a bit of hope for you, young man. Especially after you identified those few hours that have followed the accused leaving the victim's room. Yes, the 3 missing hours, as you put it. But in the end, what difference do they make? None as far as I can see. And since that's now apparent, there's really no reason to delay our decision any longer. Like I was saying before, if I don't take 5 bob home with me tonight, the missus will blow up her top. Wait, will blow her top. What's that? Sorry, I didn't quite catch what you said. Very well. Let the court be apprised of your decisions. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will state your leanings as to the defendant's culpability.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty! Guilty!
Presumably they wouldn't have the same 5 people. All of you? Well, it would appear that the jury is indeed unanimous. So this time at least it seems justice will be done. All's well that ends well, as they say. This calls for a toast, I feel. To the guilty being punished. Ooh, ah. Ooh, ah, ah, ah. Get up, Mr. Naruhodo, please! The trial isn't over yet. What do you mean, Miss Susato? Did you already forget what we're supposed to do? We gotta question each of them. What about the information I found in this encyclopedia of British law I have? That obscure right that belongs to the defense in these situations. Remember? Summation examination. Yes, that's right. We don't have a jury in Japanese courts, of course. But here in a British court of law, if we can reverse the decisions of a majority of the jurors, we can force a trial to continue. This trial can't end now. Whatever it takes, I just can't let that happen. The defense moves to invoke its right to a summation examination, my lord. Why am I not surprised at my learned Nipponese friend's inability to admit defeat? You choose to cling desperately to some archaic rule you barely comprehend instead of accepting the truth. Certainly no other defense counsel in recent times has exercised the right to a summation examination. Because they all know that once a jury's mind is set, it cannot be altered. Nevertheless, the right remains and must be upheld. The defense counsel's request is granted. This court will proceed with a summation examination as outlined in the Encyclopedia of British Law. Thank you, my lord. Are you and your fellows prepared, Mr. Foreman? Believe me, my lord, we know all about this young lad's tenacity. And we're ready for it. Very well. In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hereby call upon each of you to state the grounds upon which you find the defendant guilty of the crime for which he stands accused. I don't think Phoenix wants the jury to come to Japan, did he? I don't remember the game season that much. The victim may not be well off, but he's a noble man, and straight up, there's no reason to doubt the man. Well, I do declare the good gentleman has no reason to lie. In fact, I think he's rather splendid. Just look at the accused by comparison. He's Japanese, stoops all the while, and has a mustache. Very fishy. You're not meeting the racism allegations. There's no evidence to suggest the gangling actor is a fraudsman. For now, at least. I really don't care. Like, I just need this trial to end quickly. 3 hours of missing time is nothing when you reach my age, you know? Nothing at all. So true. I knew it. Every single one of them seems completely convinced. It seemed that all the jurors have come to the conclusion that Mr. Shamsphere is a fine, upstanding, and honest citizen. If you ask me, they've all been bewitched by his strange theatrical movements. And sadly, nothing Mr. Natsume has said appears to have registered at all. Well, here goes. Let's not forget. I've pleaded with the jury on Saseki-san's behalf before, and it worked, so you never know! Before we begin, it might be an idea for me to remind you exactly how a summation examination works. I know how it works! Should I let her talk me through it again, or not bother? No need! Thank you for the kind offer, Mrs. Sato, but I've been through plenty of these summation examinations already now. I think it's important that we don't delay the start any longer than necessary. Of course, I understand, and I'm quite sure you're right. If you're confused by anything at any point, you can turn to me for advice whenever you like. I'll be here for you. The key to this is really listening carefully to each juror's statement, finding two that are contradictory, and pitting the corresponding jurors against each other. Without further ado, please, counsel, proceed with the summation examination. Yes, my lord. This bitch right here. No reason to doubt the man. I guess I'll press on all of them.
Hold it!
Well, there are plenty of people in London who seem noble but poor. Couldn't some of them also be liars? What is this line of thinking? I have no doubt about it. Like that shaky client of yours, for example. Absolutely not! Mr. Natsume is no liar. Look, the point is, the only thing that passed the victim's lips that night was that Japanese man's tea. When you take the Jasmine's testimony into account as well, the truth couldn't be any clearer. Ah, well, that's alarmingly logical. But let me be frank here. I'm a gentleman with a gentleman's values. What? Wasn't he embezzling some funds or something? It turns out that the old Shakespearean chum is a rotten liar after all. I'd gladly change my decision about the defendant. And I'm sure my fellow gentlemen in the jury would do the same. Isn't that right? Yes, perhaps, though I don't see it happening. Eh? What's that? Elderly gent in the end here, you know. You'll have to speak up. Look, I really don't care about all this nonsense. I just need this trial to be over. How many gentlemen do we actually have in the jury, then? Alright, sir. I may hold you to that. Don't forget what you said. Okay, I just need to... If you can show me that the victim's a liar, I'll reconsider my position. Okay, he changed it. I wonder what happens if I press him on this. Will you stand by that statement? What do you take me for? I'm a gentleman, sir. A man of my word. So let me be perfectly clear about this. It turns out that the old Shakespearean chum... Okay. No reason to lie. In fact, I think he's rather splendid.
Hold it!
Are you saying you believe the man to be trustworthy because he's rather splendid? No, that's not what I said. The point is, the man is a victim here. What reason would he have to lie? And yes, he is rather splendid. So you say yet again. Meanwhile, the man who stands accused behaves so suspiciously it's exhausting to look at him. I'm afraid he's not splendid at all. Splendid logic there, madam. Thank you so much.
Hold it!
No, no, no. Not one of those things is a reason to find a man guilty. But he is fishy. There's no point dancing around the fact. He's Japanese, he has a mustache, and he stoops. You see, you arrive at a conclusion in just 3 steps. 3 steps. Like a waltz, in fact. You know, the more I think about it, the more this trial seems like a dance. You seem to be several steps ahead of yourself, though, and you're on the wrong foot. No, there's nothing but circumstantial evidence here. There's no actual proof of the defendant's guilt. But the victim's version of events is backed up by what the big chin man next to him says, isn't it? 1, he saw the Japanese man there. 2, he saw no one else. And 3, he saw the Japanese man there. Oh, that's another 3 steps. All this really does seem more and more like a waltz, doesn't it? Right, and the prosecution will waltz his way to victory if he'll let you speak much more. Okay, I got nothing from him. I don't know if... Okay, they didn't change any of their stuff.
Hold it!
A fraudsman? What do you mean by that, madam? It really is the most tiresome problem for the company. Most irritating. We can be absolutely certain that a customer is stealing from us, but without hard evidence. We can't even threaten to take action for fear of being sued. Oh, does she own a gas company? I'm sorry, you've lost me a little there. Who are you? I'm the wife of Augustus Altamont, owner of the Altamont Gas Company. Good gracious, Altamont Gas, you say? Gas is the future of energy in this country and around the globe, but proper handling is essential. As I'm sure our employee from the East End branch office would be the first to agree. Absolutely, Lady Quimby. Gotta be used properly. Altamont Gas is the best in the world, of course. It's most definitely conflict of interest. I think you may have solved the mystery with the bow from earlier, Mr. Naruhodo. Right, he bowed in deference to his employer's wife, did he? So, would I be right in assuming that the reason Mr. Meterman was watching that Mr. Shansphere was up to in his room? I'm afraid that there's no end to the lengths the population of the East End will go to in order to steal our gas. So I really have no choice when the company identifies somebody as a possible fraudsman. But to dispatch a worker to watch the suspect day and night, we're very thorough in our investigations. So you mean Mr. Shansphere is... I wouldn't come out and say it in public. But you can finish that sentence with a grubby little gas thief. You have noticed the public gallery in here, have you? The eye of man hath not heard, the ear of man hath not seen. Faith wouldst wound me with thy words, were I to let them penetrate the skin. But seraphs hear not insults, only choirs of angels in song. We may not have evidence yet, but my workers won't stop buzzing around you until they find it. She's like a bee. And when they do, you'll find yourself blasted back to your angelic heights in an Altamont gas explosion. Are you suggesting murder? So Mr. Shansphere has been stealing gas. I wonder, juror number 4, if you wouldn't mind adding that information to your statement. My pleasure. Was it the bit about ripping the thief apart you enjoyed? A little before the part about abject violence, if it's not too much trouble. Yes, of course. This could be it. This could shift the balance. I don't think anyone else has anything else to say, though, but...
Hold it!
We'll ask him what's up. You keep talking about needing to take home some money. What's that all about, sir? Finish last. That's what it's about. What's that? I'm talking about the derby at Hyde Park, aren't I? I was at the Queen's Cup last week, wasn't it? Derby? It was a dead cert, that's a thing. I couldn't lose, so I took my wife's secret savings, like, uh-oh. But then that hopeless old mayor went and did the unthinkable. That stupid finish last. Oh dear, I think it's clear what happened, isn't it? This is the day the missus used her savings for a trip down the pub. So come on, let this business lie now. Just give it up. No, that's not going to happen.
Hold it!
What do you really mean by that, sir? Well, I'm not one to boast, but I get up at 5 every morning, I do. At 5? You're a really early riser then, aren't you? What's that now? I said you're an early riser. Oh, well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I like to while away the hours in the evening reading books as well. But by about 2 in the morning, I'm usually too tired to go on. He sleeps at 2 in the morning and gets up at 5? Oh my, that means he only has 3 hours of sleep each night. What's that, dear? Only 3 hours of sleep each night. That's right, you see? 3 hours of missing time, like I said, it's not much, is it? This really isn't helping. Key to summation exam. Okay, I know what to do! I know what to do! guess so. Pit this guy with this guy.
Objection!
Those two statements clearly contradict each other. Good gracious, to whose statements do you refer, counsel? Juror number 1? Eh, what are you yelling about, lad? I presume you've heard juror number 4's statement, made by the wife of the owner of Altamont Gas. Well, yes. The victim, who you claim to be a noble, straight-up man, in fact turns out to be a common thief. So the good lady says, but there's no evidence, is there? You and I both heard them say as much. It's true, we don't have evidence as such, just yet. The claims aren't baseless, you know. What? You heard me, seeing as his operation's already been compromised. I was just at the court hears testimony from our East End branch office employee over there. I'll do whatever you say, my lady. Gasman's honor. Juror number 1, you say you're a man of your word. If I could show that Mr. Shamsphere was a liar, you assured me that you would reconsider your decision about the defendant's guilt. Yes, I did say that. And as a man of honor, I'll hold to it, as I'm sure the other gentlemen of the jury will. Me? Oh, well, yes. Now that we found out the man's a liar, perhaps we ought to consider the matter further. Oh my gosh, he's just... Well, if I'm perfectly honest, I haven't heard half of what you've all been saying. So if this means you'll recap a few points, that would suit me down to the ground. Oh no, I'm not having any part of this. I want a trial over and done with. In that case, I shall change my leaning. So, Mr. William Shamsphere, if that is your real name, we the jury demand to know exactly what kind of a man you really are. That's 4 jurors, 4 for not guilty. Yes, Mr. Naruhodo. Victory! Ordar, ordar! Well, this is quite extraordinary, I must say. As a result of the defense's summation examination, the jury's leaning has changed. Now only 2 jurors say guilty, whilst 4 say not guilty. I therefore declare this court to be in a state of disaccord, and order the trial to continue. Seething, maulding. You have spoilt the bouquet, Mr. Shamsphere. The ladies and gentlemen of the jury now find they are unable to trust you, the victim. I guess... with all the other evidence to the murder, attempted murder. But you gods will give us some faults to make us men. So God mend me, I do swear. This gasman speaketh that which concerns him most, naught but gas, naught but thin air. Aye, but it burneth bright a while, but it hath no substance, and it doth reek foul. Oi, what did you say? Do I take it, Mr. Shamsphere, that you deny the allegations of gas thievery? Most heartily, my lord, hast thou forgot? I am as a seraph, an angel. Noble of mind, sweet of nature, and verily, honest of heart. You flowery-mouthed, pompous beanful, just because I haven't got the evidence yet. Mr. Shamsphere, if, in fact, you are not noble of mind, sweet of nature, or honest of heart, if you are a liar, then your testimony should have no sway in this courtroom. It is my considered opinion that at the present time no other possible culprit of this crime has been identified. All testimony heard by the court thus far heavily implicates the defendant. In short, it would not be unreasonable at this stage for me to rule on the case. Oh no. However, in light of the fact that the jury has expressed concern about the fidelity of this witness, I believe it would be inappropriate for this court not to pursue the point further.
Objection!
I assure you, my lord, that would be a waste of the court's time. The gas in this case are unrelated. Juror number 4. Yes. Didn't you say before that although you had no hard evidence to prove this man has been stealing gas, you have strong grounds for suspecting him? That's right, we do. Don't we, worker? Absolutely, Lady Quinby, Gasman's honor. Very well then, we will hear your testimony now. You will tell the court precisely why you believe the victim, Mr. William Shamspeare, has been stealing gas. Yes, my lord, it'll be my pleasure. On the Altamont gas name, if I may, my lord. Go ahead, madam. This worker's testimony may have a significant bearing on the good name of my husband's company. Therefore, I should like to take the stand alongside him in a supervisory role, if you wouldn't mind. Wahoo! Oh yeah, sweet as honey. Yeah. Very well. As an exception, I shall honor your request. Thank you, my lord. You wait till the boss gives you an earful. Ooh, it's gonna sting. You mark my words. Simp. So, you will both testify before the court on the subject of the illegal consumption of the Altamont Gas Company's fuel. Yes, is that clear, my good man? Clear as Altamont gas, my lady, which is the clearest in the world. Do you think the gas has gone to his head, Miss Usato? I think the man is just a very dedicated employee, Mr. Naruhodo. Both can be true, I think. I'm proud to be the company's East End branch investigator and meter money collection agent. Altamont gas meters accept penny bits, each coin giving customers about 2 hours of gorgeous gas. What do these words mean? And yet, the meter in Mr. Shamspeare's room didn't have a single coin in it. The meter doesn't appear to have been tampered with, though, and the collection agent has the only key. Somehow, he's using all the flamin' gas he wants without paying a penny. If that's not thieving, what is? Interesting. Pray forgive the discourtesy. The irrelevance of this testimony caused me to turn to my hallowed chalice. What do you mean by that remark, Lord Van Zieks? Did the mustachioed Nipponese poison the gangling excuse for an actor, or didn't he? That is all that should concern this court. And yet, now we must listen to this abhorrence. Abhorrence? Clearly, what separates the vast British Empire and your Eastern Island nation is more than geographical distance. But this could turn out to be crucial testimony. The cross-examination must go ahead. Okay, do what you will. Lord Van Zieks appears to be in a violent mood. Yes, he does. An attempted poisoning and an incident of gas theft with no supporting evidence. It's true that they would appear completely unrelated at first glance, but I wonder, the truth tends to be buried in the most unusual places. The first step in uncovering it will be to establish just who and what this man really is. Alright, we'll end it here.